What's up, everybody? Back to the channel. Thank you for being here. I want to appreciate everybody who has subscribed to the channel. We have some new subscribers. Welcome on board to the family. We're going to keep this ship rolling along. I want to talk about this incident that's just happened this week, that's just come out. You know, those of you that are religious, that you go to church, you believe in Jesus and God and the Bible and what have you. I've got nothing against people who believe in the Bible, who go to church. I'm a spiritual person myself. I do believe in God and a higher power. But I have a problem with these preachers today who are constantly putting on their theatrics in their churches, talking loud, that pimp talk, that jack-a-leg preacher type talk, and seem to be taking the Bible and taking slices of it to fit their ideology and feeding it to us as if it is the complete truth by mixing in various passages in the Bible so that you can't negate what they're saying. Now, not too long ago, this particular pastor in particular has become very popular, very well known in the Atlanta area. He's the pastor of the 2819 church. We're talking about Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell. Okay. Now he's a very intense brother, talking, sweating all over the place, the whole 9 yards. He really gets into what he's saying, but this time he went too far. He really disrespected, in my opinion, black people in America as it relates to the relationship or lack of relationship that we have with police on a historical level and a current level. He sets up there in his sermon talking about that black people, that we don't respect authority, and that we don't teach our kids to respect authority. And that's why black kids are being deleted, taken out of here by police, or being killed or deleted by police. You know what I'm talking about. Now, certainly there are people, like any citizens in this country, black, white, Latino, Asian, there's always going to be some people who don't conduct themselves appropriately when they deal with police or any authority. But to sit up there and make a blatant statement about black people don't teach their kids to respect authority, when you know damn well that one of the first things that we learn growing up is a belief in God, a belief in a religion, a belief in Jesus, a spirituality. And most black men in particular, and black youth, when we encounter police, we can encounter police minding our own business, carrying ourselves respectfully, and we can still be disrespected by police. See, what Pastor Mitchell, Anthony Mitchell, Philip Mitchell, what the pastor is preaching, and we've heard this shit before, is that he's preaching respectability politics. If you just pull up your pants, you put on a suit, you get your hair cut a certain way, you talk a certain way, well, they're not going to treat you a certain way. That is bullshit. We have seen cases where black people have been harmed by police. So what he does, and I'm going to show you the videos, everybody, is he gets into the religious texts. He takes bits and pieces of it to make his point about, he uses the biblical times in which people had to do what? Pay their taxes, respect authority, and what have you. But my thing is this. You don't respect any authority that doesn't respect you. You don't respect a man, a woman, or anybody who treats you disrespectfully. You don't treat anyone with respect that treats you like a dog. You see, you to get respect, you must give respect to get respect, and we must also give respect to get respect. But a lot of times we got cops out here that will treat you like an animal. Growing up myself personally, I've seen horrible things that cops have done to people that I grew up with who weren't committing any crime, that were minding their own business. But when you're black and you have this pigmentation, as Paul Mooney says, you know, he had the right color for protection. He had the right complexion for the protection. A lot of times black people, we stick out like a sore thumb. We don't have the right paint job for the protection, so we don't get the benefit of the doubt. We get stereotyped. We might be a black person jogging in a neighborhood like Ahmaud Arbery, who was jogging in a neighborhood, and he gets harassed by a cop that's a retired cop, and he brings in his hooligan family members, and what did they do? Took that young man's life. Elijah McClain, who was minding his own business in Arroyo, Colorado, walking. He was an introvert. He had a mask over his head. It was cold out there that night. He was minding his own business, and then the police grabbed up on him, and he tried to explain to them in a very calm manner, respectability politics. He wasn't a thug. He didn't have a hoodie on. And what did they end up doing to Elijah McClain? They ended up choking him out and then injected him with some type of drugs that they had no business or license to do so. Now, I don't know. I got to be honest. Philip Anthony Mitchell. I want to get his last name correct. From what I can see in his background, and he admits that his family's from the Caribbean. He's Trinidadian. Well, I got to keep this real. I'm a Black American. Foundational here, been here forever. We have a different relationship with cops historically than anybody in this country. Going all the way back to the slave plantation when you had slave patrols. Okay, that's how policing came out of slave patrols, trying to hunt after Black people that escaped from the plantations. Convict leasing, when they would put Black men in prison and then lease them out for free labor. See, I don't think he understands the history, or he wouldn't have come up there on his platform or on his bully pulpit and disrespected Black people the way he did. So let's get into this right now, because I'm pissed off about it, and let you see a little bit of what he did here, how he tries to wrap this whole ideology into the religious part of it. Here we go.
To governmental authority. That what we owe the government, is taxes and compliance with laws and following ordinances like traffic laws, like not parking in a handicap if you're not handicapped. To governmental authority. That what we owe the government, is taxes and...
So he's talking about governmental authority. Sir, you living in a country called America that was built on rebellion. Wasn't it the English that came over here from England who rebelled against the taxes of England? So the whole existence of America in its foundation is built on rebellion. And then Black people had to rebel against the oppression here in this country. So he's telling you we must respect authority. No, you respect authority that respects you and treats you like a human being. Don't respect any authority that treats you like crap. We're not living, Pastor Mitchell, Anthony Mitchell, Philip. We're not living in the 1960s and 40s where Black people today are going to tolerate letting dogs be put on us, hoses being put on us. This is a passive presentation that he put on here. Let's listen to some more of what he put on in this part of this presentation. Check this out. He's going to talk about what happened to him with some Italian police officer, I guess in New York, that put a whip and a firearm against the back of his head. And check this out, just because he made eye contact with him. Man, let's hear this.
Avenue, Hollis. I'm walking out Hollis in Queens. And I remember an Italian officer, man, he drove by me in his car. He looked me in the eye, and I looked him in the eye. We made eye contact, and I kept walking. He came around the block, jumped out the car, grabbed me by my neck, smashed me up against a brick wall, and he put his Glock to the back of my head. Watch. And then he said to me, watch, say something. No phones, no iPhone.
Now, let's really get into this, everybody. This is the effery of this whole thing. He's telling you this story about what happened to him. Philip Anthony Mitchell, Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell, you just got violated. Your rights got violated. You live in a country where there's laws. Police officers should not be allowed to just jump out of their car and then pull out their firearm, put it against your temple of your head, and put a threat on your life, telling you you better not say anything. First of all, what was your crime that night? What did you do? Your crime was making eye contact with the police? And you use this as an example to come down the pipeline and tell Black people in this country, you don't teach your kids to respect authority because your parents told you to respect authority, He puts a gun to your head. He could have blown your brains out. He saw you as just another N-word, just another ninja.
Tell the truth.
But I bet you, Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell, I bet you don't even know the historical context of the police in the NYPD. You may not even know the history of how that police department got created out of slave patrols as well. How all of it intermingles into the experience that black people have had historically in this country. That what you experience as someone who's a child of immigrants is what black people have experienced over 400 years in this country.
Tell the
And
truth.
you set up here and use a religious sermon to scold black people about whether we teach our kids to respect authority, underestimate, undervalue, and marginalize people who look just like you. Damn you, Pastor Mitchell. Damn you on that. Let's get back to this.
No cameras, no recording. And his Glock is pressed up against my head. Say something. Watch. Now, in that moment, I hear the voice of my mother all the time harassing me. Oh, son. She's Trinidadian. Oh, son. Obey the...
See, mother is Trinidadian. So I get it. His mother is telling him to obey authority, but he uses this experience to flip it around to black people about how we're not teaching our kids to respect authority. Complete disrespect. And then you wonder why black men don't want to go to these churches, because these black preachers are not giving a message that uplifts us. They're not giving us a message that's getting us to tangibles in our life. And they're preaching a message that don't even fit with what's going on today. Sure, there are kids out here that get a little unruly. Sure, there's adults out here who get unruly. But what you just did is you painted a stereotype that all black folks, that we're getting deleted by cops because we just don't respect authority. So Dr. King, who, if it wasn't for Dr. King and what they did in the 1964 Voters' Right Act, folks like your own family that came from the Caribbean islands would have never had the opportunity to come over here in larger mass than what you have. So people could, I mean, the things that Dr. King and Malcolm X and these kind of folks were doing in the past, there were a lot of people that said that they were going against authority. Of course they were going against authority. Dr. King was going against authority. Malcolm X was going against authority. Nothing changes.
Tell the truth.
If you don't try to buck that system. You don't want to try to stick with the system. And nothing changes when you keep things status quo. Philip Anthony Mitchell, pastor.
Holy Spirit, oh son, obey God, oh son, obey authority, oh son, obey the cops, oh son, stop getting in trouble with the police, oh son, obey your elders, obey
Now check this out. Isn't it funny that he tells black people that we don't discipline our kids to respect authority like police? Even though we know that historically police, in most cases, have not served and protected black communities. They've usually occupied black communities, harassed individuals in black communities that weren't even committing crimes.
Tell the truth.
Just because of the paint job. And he's saying to himself that when this man put this Glock, this cop that violated his rights, put this Glock against his temple of his head, that he's thinking about his mother saying, please stay out of trouble with the cops. It makes me wonder, Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell, did you have a criminal background? Were you at one point in time, did you do time in prison or jail at one time? Were you doing some things out there that just wasn't kosher? And that's why you were thinking about your mother telling you about how to respect authority and respect the cops? Are you projecting your failure to respect authority once upon a time in your life on the masses of black people? Maybe you're really, I work in mental health, y'all. I can figure this out. He's projecting his own issues that he had in his life onto the rest of us with this sermon. This is what this is really all about. Let's continue.
authority. My mother and father constantly trying to teach me to obey authority. And in that moment, I hear her voice. And in that moment, I got to decide which one will be stronger, my ego or my submission.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the one that really got under my skin when he said these statements. Now, look, this is a guy who has a church, the 2819 church in Atlanta, Georgia. I believe it's in Atlanta, Georgia. It's a church that's gotten a lot of attention. This is a guy that you see him on YouTube. He's got a YouTube channel. He's on there. He's talking a mile a minute. You know, it's dark in there. He's got the whole ambiance looking a certain way. And he's also, he's to his credit, he has been critical of other preachers, especially these prosperity type preachers and these mega church type preachers. He has called them out on a few occasions about some things. He's gotten very, very popular. But see, this is the thing, I'm gonna say it again. You gotta beware of these preachers who take things from the Bible and they mix in their own ideology to project their issues onto you as a member of their church. Because I'm about to bring up some things that contradict what he just said and what he's about to say right here about black people. Here's the clip that really got under my skin. Here we go. Right here, y'all.
Or I can submit and walk away with my life. And if I don't submit in that moment, man, I'm hurled into eternity by a cop's bullet. And I know there's bad cops out there. We know that. We know there's cops who's evil. Man, there's evil people in every industry preaching all that stuff. But
so right there, he acknowledges that there's bad cops. He acknowledges that. So if you know that there's bad cops out there, why would you make a blanket statement that black people don't discipline their kids to respect authority? Certainly there's going to be kids out there. Certainly there's going to be adults out there who just damn right don't respect anything in life, right? But to do that blanket statement, I mean, if I was to close my eyes and didn't know that this man was black, okay, of Caribbean ancestry, if I didn't know that, and you just close your eyes, what he's saying is the sort of stereotypes that people would say in the past and still believe today.
Tell the truth.
That black people, we don't respect authority just because we fight for our rights and we stand up when we're mistreated by people in authority. Therefore, that's a reflection that we don't respect authority. No, we just tired of taking mess, and we tired of being tired of having to deal with mess that comes our way. A lot of times as black people, we just want to live our life, enjoy our family, and be left alone. But we have people who bring trouble our way. You just stood up here and said a Italian cop stopped you and for no reason and pulled his. You are an example of someone who didn't do anything wrong, but that cop, and there are cops out there and people who overstep their authority and abuse their authority. And there are scriptures in the Bible that talks about how you don't have to respect ruthless, wicked authority. Let me put this up for you right here. This is right out of the Bible. This is, check this out. We are supposed to honor and obey the government, but when the wicked rule, they harm the people by enacting unjust laws and unbiblical policies. So that cop that did what he did to you was unbiblical in the way he did that. So scriptures also authorize civil disobedience, that is basically God's laws when doing so requires disobedient humans etiquette. So basically the Bible even tells you, and I don't pretend to be a Bible buff or anything like that, everybody, but even the Bible says that there's nothing wrong with engaging in civil disobedience when you're under a wicked government. Well, don't we have some wicked things going on in the world and in America today and in the past? Let's continue.
Man, not every killing of a black man was because of a bad cop. Some of that is because we have not taught our children to be, obedient to authority.
This is the part right here that really gets under my skin. He says that we have not taught our kids to be obedient to authority. Do you agree with this? or do you disagree? Do you slightly agree? Let me know in the comment section. Let me play this again.
Man, not every killing of a black man was because of a bad cop. Some of that is because we have not taught our children to be, watch, obedient to authority.
Now, certainly, everybody, let's stop playing around here. Certainly, everybody, we have had black men who have carried themselves properly and have been harmed by police. See, he's getting again into something that I do not like, which is respectability politics. It does not work. I've seen plenty of people growing up who had a suit and tie on, spoke the King's English, and still got treated like crap just because they were black. Okay, so what you have here is a man who fails to have an understanding of the history. Once again, Ahmaud Arbery, we know his story. The man was jogging. He was treated like he was an animal. They took this man out with their firearm. You had a retired cop in his sons tracking him down like he was an animal. Elijah McClain from Colorado was treated like an animal when they shot him with some type of drug and they choked him. And he was trying to explain his situation. Let me remind everybody that black people are most likely to be deleted or killed by police 3 times more likely to be killed by police than white people. 3 times more. Okay? Now, check this out too. 1.3 times more likely to be unarmed compared to white people when we are taken out of here. Let's put this chart up for everybody to study. Black people are most likely to be killed by police. Again, more black men are taken out by police when we're unarmed. Unarmed. We don't have a weapon on us whatsoever. Okay? Let me put this up here. In the United States, black people more likely to be killed by police. Despite only making up 13% of the United States population, black Americans are nearly 3 times as likely as white Americans to be deleted out of here. That's one of the charts right here. Let's put this up here. Do y'all remember the situation with Walter L. Scott I think this was in South Carolina? He got stopped on a routine traffic stop by a police officer. Apparently, he owed child support. You should always pay your child support. But he got scared and he ran from the police officer. He didn't have a weapon on him. He didn't fight the police officer. He didn't throw punches. He simply ran at this point in time from authority. But this authority shot him in the back like an animal while he was clearly running from the cop, posing no danger. And it wasn't because he did harm to anybody. He just found out that the man hadn't paid child support and there was a warrant for him to be arrested. And he ran from this authority, right? Now, you can say now he shouldn't have ran. He should have just stayed there and been arrested. But he ran, and there's no law that says if you run that they can delete you with their firearm in the back while you're running. Check this out. In Columbia, South Carolina, identified 209 suspects in the state in the past 5 years who were fired at by police. 79 died. The state could find only 3 police officers who were charged with a crime in connection with any of the 209 shootings. Now, this article came out in 2015 when they came out with these stats. What is unusual is that race of the victim of those 79 people in South Carolina who were fatally deleted by police, 43%, 34 people were African American or Black Americans. That's a higher proportion than the Black American share of state populations, which was 29% in 2013 census population. This is in South Carolina. And this man is sitting up here trying to tell y'all that the problem is that we just don't respect authority. And if we disrespect authority, we wouldn't find ourselves being harmed by cops. Sucker, I'm sorry. To the pastor, I got to be honest with you. You did wrong. You're badly wrong, because there's so many cases of black people who were trying to follow the cops' directions, black people that were mistreated, mishandled, even black women that have been mishandled by cops that weren't posing any danger, and bad things happen. So I totally disagree with his premise, but let's continue to hear more of this premise.
That that some of the stuff that we bring upon ourselves when we provoke authority. And what the Lord is teaching us in this moment is to be model citizens.
So now here comes
that obey the laws of the land.
Obey the laws of the land. I totally get it. This is respectability politics. If you just obey the laws of the land. Hey, Pastor Philip. Oh my God. Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell. Have you ever heard of a place called Rosewood in Florida? Have you ever heard of a place called Tulsa, Oklahoma? Have you ever heard of black communities where black people were minding their own business and were being accused of things that they didn't do? And you had the so-called authorities that were like the Ku Klux Klan, white people that would come into those communities and destroy those communities based off of a lie. Oh, what about those black men doing in the South during the 40s and 30s, in the 50s and 1920s, where they would be in their home or in their house or wherever they lived, and you would have Klans members who were actually also members of the police force, and they would go into a house, grab a black man and string him up and hang him. And it wasn't because they didn't respect authority. It was because these groups like the Ku Klux Klan and many others, they were terrorist groups terrorizing black people throughout the decades. I want y'all to hear this again.
Land, even when they hurt. Listen, after Jesus is resurrected, we see the evidence of this in the teachings of his followers. Romans chapter 13 and verse 1, the apostle Paul writes to a church he did not found. Let every person be subject to the governing authorities. Listen, be a model citizen. For there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God.
Now, as he goes on poetically saying that everything has been instituted by God, I get it. But what he's basically almost like saying is that the reason why we don't, this is what I'm getting from it. The reason why black people are being deleted by police is we don't respect authority because we're not being a good citizen. And if we would just be a good citizen and say, yes, sir, no, sir, and act passive, that somehow you're gonna be okay. Now, I admit that sometimes if you run across a police officer that's a hothead that you know is trigger happy, yeah, you're gonna have to try to navigate that situation safely. And another thing that bothers me about this is that Pastor Phil Anthony Mitchell, you fail this is another area that you fail, sir, because I gotta be honest, you're not a black American foundational person, because historically, black fathers have always had to have that special conversation with their black sons in terms of how you conduct yourself when you're dealing with the police. So to set up here and say that black people don't teach their kids to respect authority when black fathers for years and years have had to teach their kids, their sons in particular, how you navigate dealing with police so that you don't end up 6 feet under, because these police have a adversarial relationship or an aggressive relationship in the way they deal with black people. No, I'm going to say this again. Yes, you respect authority, but you don't respect any authority that doesn't respect you. You don't respect authority that thrashes you around. You sat up there and told us that story about that cop and what he did to you. That man did not respect you. How can you respect authority? Now, I get it. You wanted to get out of that situation, go home safe without not being taken out of here. I totally get that. But the setup here, because of your situation that you are trying to process for yourself and now project that issue that you had once upon a time, because maybe Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell, brother, did you do some time in prison? I'm hearing little birdies telling me that you did some time in prison as well, or you've done some time. You've had your moments, and I respect you if you've cleaned your life up as a pastor, but don't sit up here and try to preach to black people about our love not our love, but our ability to respect authority. No, our ability today in today's time is that we ain't respecting nobody that don't respect us. We ain't bowing down. We ain't getting on our knees, and we ain't singing no, we shall overcome.
Tell the
No
truth.
more. Let's play this out.
Therefore, whoever resists the authorities resists what God has appointed. And those who resist will incur what? Judgment. For the rulers.
All right, sir. Judgment. Well, let me let y'all hear Rashad Ritchie, who really broke it down on his show. I like this brother. This is the brother from the Undisputed, and check him out.
Sounds like to me that Italian cop was doing something illegal, was being hyper aggressive, escalating a situation to a young black male that could have got your head blown off. Now, maybe he didn't blow your head off.
Facts.
But the fact that you don't advocate for police reform and accountability, you leave that cop open to blow somebody else's head off in the future.
Facts. It was a lack of accountability on that cop, and he's just simply projecting his issues, unresolved issues, and shrouding it in the Bible text to tell black people about how we should respect authority. As if black people don't have a history of respecting any authority. These preachers, man. And then y'all wonder why black men are saying, I'm out of here.
And I'd rather take the stance of escalating the illegality of what that cop was doing, rather than assuming that black folk are illegal in everything they're doing when they are encountering cops.
Facts. Rashad Ritchie, the historical accounting of black people historically have had bad experiences with police, which is why our kids have a disposition sometimes, because we grow up in our communities and we see what the cops are doing.
As a matter of fact, this country, you are innocent unless proven guilty. So by the statute of law, don't you like laws, preacher?
Right.
Under the statute of law, every black person who was killed by a cop was actually innocent because no judicial authority had proven them guilty.
Facts.
You like laws. Sounds like to me that Italian cop was doing something illegal, was being hyper aggressive, escalating a situation to a young black male that
Let me stop it right there. So you see Rashad Ritchie breaking it down. Now, let me leave you all with this. I don't pretend to be a Bible scholar, but I do want to lay something on you that I think shoots a hole in the argument of Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell of the 2819 Church. And I hope he talks about this in his church, because we got to stop being hypocrites. You see, he says that we got to respect authority, but guess what? Why did Jesus Christ get crucified? Why did Jesus Christ give his life for us? Right? What happened? The power or the authority in those days when Jesus walked the earth physically was the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire were the ones that were the authority. They put the taxes on people. They laid out how it was going to be. And what happened? They took Jesus Christ out. They tortured him. They crucified him because he went against authority. Matter of fact, you can make an argument that Jesus Christ was an activist. He went against the system.
Tell the truth.
He didn't want to go with status quo, and they were afraid of how he was waking the people up. And as a result of him going against the system, against the authority, Pastor Mitchell, they crucified him. So this whole thing about, oh, we don't know how to respect authority, Jesus Christ went against authority. Let me read this passage to you right here. Jesus was persecuted by the Romans primarily because his teachings and his actions were seen as a threat to the Roman authority and societal order. While he did not specifically oppose Roman rule, his claims to be the king of Jews and the challenging of the Jewish priesthood were perceived as subversive. Additionally, his growing popularity and the potential for Jesus to inspire unrest led to the Romans to view him as a potential source of rebellion because he was an activist, y'all. He was an activist. And now let me read this last passage to you. In essence, Jesus' execution was a result of Roman authority, desire to maintain order and prevent a potential threat to their power and authority. And this man just sat up here. This man just sat up here and told y'all in so many words that we have to respect authority. Well, Jesus Christ didn't respect authority, and that's why they did the things that they did to him, sir. That's why they crucified him and treated him poorly, sir, because Jesus Christ was not going with the authority. He wasn't going with the status quo. He was against it. He was an activist. And so your sermon and how you came at black people was incorrect and disrespectful. It's a way that you could have encouraged us to recognize what you were saying, but not in such a disrespectful and blatant way to almost damn near stereotype us. And see, this went as far as people on Twitter, like this sister right here. Regardless of that, Philip Anthony Mitchell was trying to convert in that sermon using the disrespectful or the systematic murder of black people at the hands of police was not only a bad example, but a very harmful example. So she's basically in a nutshell saying that saying that in his sermon was not good because of the systematic history of what cops have done to black people in this country. So he wasn't being sensitive to the issues that black people have had to deal with in this country when it has come to police. Everybody, thank you for watching this program. I'm going to keep hitting you with the hard-hitting videos and commentary. Everybody, tell somebody that you love them. Give me comments in the comment section of this video. Do you agree with Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell? Do you agree with him? Disagree? Agree with some things? Tell me the truth. Tell the truth. Everybody, y'all take care. Peace.
Information is power.